What's going on, everybody? Welcome to CS5 Unmasked, bringing you another costume tutorial. Today we're going to be making the Ghost Jason from the fan film Never Hike Alone. And we're going to be doing this for under $25. Now I'm well aware that $25 really isn't a whole lot of money to be making a Ghost Jason costume with, so I'm going to do my very best. So sit back and relax, and welcome to CS5's Cost Cut Costume Tutorials. Alright, let's go ahead and see what we're going to need. So we're going to need a mask and a hood, a gray undershirt, a light colored thermal long sleeve shirt or sweater, a army jacket, brown colored pants, and a pair of work boots. Now footwear will be optional, just wear whatever you think is comfortable. Now I'm a pretty big advocate of shopping around and trying to get the best deal when I'm trying to create my costumes, and I lucked out pretty big. I was able to pick up most everything that I needed at my local Goodwill. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and prepare to do some painting, so I'm going to place a piece of plywood onto my table and a small piece in the back. This is going to minimize the mess that I'm actually going to create. Now if you don't have any plywood yourself, a few layers of cardboard will work just fine. Now the pants that I picked up at the Goodwill for around $4 weren't as dark as I hoped for. So we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of staining. I'm going to use an empty spray bottle that I had lying around the house, and I went ahead and cleaned this out thoroughly before I'm going to use it for this application. Alright, I'm going to add some warm water, about 3/4 of the way full. And then I'm going to add a half a bottle of acrylic black paint. Now I picked this black paint up at Walmart for around 50 cents. And don't forget to shake it up really well. So I'm going to spray the pants quite thoroughly from the top to the bottom, ensuring that I get every little crevice, every little crease, and every little seam. Then once the front is done, go ahead and proceed to flip it over and do the back side. Wait for it to dry and then see if there's any other spots that you missed. Go ahead and repeat this process as many times as necessary. Alright, after referencing quite a few photos, I'm going to be applying damage to the pants. I'm going to put a small cut on the left leg and a small cut on the right leg. Using a pair of scissors, I'm going to be shredding up the bottom of the pant legs. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to take a piece of sandpaper and I'm going to go over all of the cuts and damage. This is going to fray it out and make it look really weathered, worn, and old. The sandpaper that I'm using is 100 grit, and I did pick this up at Walmart for about $1.50. Now the gray undershirt that I'm going to be using is actually one of my own, but I did pick it up at the Goodwill for about $2. Now there's quite a few stains already on the shirt from the work on other projects, so I figured it was time to retire it and use it for this particular costume. Alright, now let's work on the long sleeve shirt. Now this is actually a thermal shirt that I did pick up at the Goodwill for $2 as well. Using a Sharpie, I'm going to mark out the damage that I'm going to be applying to the shirt. I'm going to do a little bit around the collar, and then a few spots on the front of the shirt itself. Once I'm all done, I'm going to use a pair of scissors and proceed to cut out where I marked. Now we're going to stain and discolor the shirt. Using the spray bottle with the black water solution, we're going to repeat the same process as we did with the pants. I'm going to spray all over the shirt, trying to get every crease and seam that I can, and then once I'm done, I'm going to flip it over and repeat the same process. Now we're going to add some blood effects to the shirt. Go ahead and dump out the black water solution that you have in the bottle into a separate container. We're now going to add some warm water to the bottle again, but this time we're going to be adding some red acrylic paint. Now I picked this red paint up at Walmart for about 50 cents. Now we're not going to add nowhere near as much water, but we are still going to add about a half a bottle of red paint. Shake the bottle up really well, and now it's time to apply it to the shirt. Now we're not going to go over the entire shirt, we're just going to go in key areas, mainly underneath the collar and down the front of the shirt. Okay, once that dries, we're now going to proceed to stain up the shirt a bit more with the black water solution. Go ahead and dump out the red water solution into a separate container, and then put in the black water solution again. Now this might work a little bit better if you had two separate bottles, but for me, I just had the one. So with the black water solution again, go ahead and go over the blood effects. This is going to darken it up, and it's going to look really old and dry. Alright, let's go ahead and move on to the army jacket. Now I did pick this up at the Goodwill for around $4. It does have some stains all over the front of the jacket, like either at one time it had pockets and somebody removed them, or somebody was using it for an everyday jacket, and it got stained up pretty good. But overall, it's going to work really good for this costume. Now I went ahead and removed the US Army tag that was on the front of the jacket, and I'll see if I can reuse this tag on another project in the future. Now I want to go ahead and rough up the seams on this jacket so it looks really tattered and old, so I'm going to be using a razor blade just to kind of go along the edges. I'm going to go along the edges of the pocket, next to the buttons, and even around the collar. If you're going to use a razor blade, proceed with caution. These things are extremely sharp. But if you don't plan on using a razor blade, a pair of scissors will actually work just fine. Just go ahead and trim off the edge, just so that you have a little bit of the threads exposed. Go ahead and do this to the seam of the pockets, next to the buttons, and even around the collar. Now this is going to take a little bit of time, so please be patient. The overall effect is actually going to look pretty cool. Alright, once you're done with that, go ahead and take your sandpaper again, and just go along all the areas that you cut. Now this will fray out the fibers, and it's going to make the jacket look really old and worn in. Okay, now that we have all the seams all frayed out, we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of damage on the jacket. I'm going to make a few small cuts on the jacket, based on what I've seen in the photos, and proceed to use sandpaper to fray them out. Now I'm going to take a pair of scissors, and I'm going to shred up the cuffs of the sleeves. Once that's complete, again I'm going to take the sandpaper and rough it up. Now it's time to move on to the mask. Now I'm just going to be using a cheap mask that you buy on eBay for around $2. Now I'm going to go ahead and reuse the strap that actually came with the mask, because for this particular application it's going to work out quite nicely. But I am going to remove the bottom 2 snaps on the mask, because they are not necessary. Now I'm going to go ahead and sand the mask. Now, so this mask can actually look a little more film accurate, I am going to remove a small amount from the top of the mask. This is going to kind of level it out so it looks more like the one from the film. All I'm going to do here is just take a pencil, make a line over the top, and then just take a pair of scissors and then trim it off. Once you're done with that, just grab a piece of sandpaper and smooth it out a little bit. Alright, we're going to go ahead and paint the mask now. Now I'm just going to grab some regular Scotch tape that I picked up at the dollar store and put it around the 3 remaining snaps. This will ensure that the strap is actually going to fit on nicely. Now, using some cheap white paint that I picked up at Walmart for around $1, I'm going to proceed to spray the mask. Now typically I would never use this cheap of paint, but for what we're trying to do here, it's going to work out quite well. Go ahead and spray the mask, let it dry, and if you have to apply another coat, feel free. Now I'm going to go ahead and put some stains on the mask. Now this trick is actually done quite simply by using some diluted black paint and a rag. I'm going to wipe the diluted black paint all over the mask, let it dry for a few seconds, and then gently wipe it off with a damp cloth. A lot of residual from the diluted black paint will actually stick to the mask in certain areas, along with some surface scratches. Now this is a really cool effect, and it does make the mask look aged and weathered. Now we're going to do the same thing with our diluted yellow paint. Now the yellow paint I did pick up at Walmart for around 50 cents. Again, we're going to wipe it all over the mask, allow it to dry for a few seconds, and then using a damp rag, we're going to gently wipe it off. Now again, it's going to leave some residual yellow behind, which gives it a really dingy, grimy look. Now if you don't like the effect, you can apply more yellow or more black until your desired look is reached. I think I want to add a little more detail. I'm going to proceed to use the diluted black and the diluted yellow to kind of emphasize certain areas of the mask, mainly around the edges and around the mouth. I'm going to continue to do this until I'm happy with the way it looks. And if I accidentally put too much on, I can always use a damp rag to fix any mistakes I make. Now using a pencil, I'm going to go ahead and mark out all of the blood splatter and scratches on the mask. Now I'm going to be referencing lots of photos just so that I can make sure that I got every single one. Once you're done there, you can either do one of two ways. You can either apply the blood splatter just by painting it on, but I'm going to go the little extra mile. Using my Dremel with an etching bit, I'm going to go ahead and give a little bit of depth to some of the scratches. But again, if you don't have a Dremel, just painting them on looks good as well. Now for the blood splatter, I'm just going to be using red paint mixed with a little bit of black, and I'm just going to apply it to the scratches. Now being as I'm going to be reusing the strap that actually came with the mask, I want to kind of deck it out a little bit so it looks a little more like the strap from the film. Now I'm just going to be using some duct tape that I picked up at the dollar store and just putting it on the strap. I'm not going to be too neat, I'm just going to apply it so it looks a little more homemade. Now one thing I do notice that it is a little bit too shiny, so to solve that I'm just going to be using some diluted black paint and gently dab it all over the duct tape. I'm going to let this dry and apply several more coats. Now this is going to actually dull it up so it doesn't have that shine. That doesn't look too bad. Now let's go ahead and apply the strap to the mask. Now as far as the hood is concerned, I'm just going to be using a regular balaclava. Now this is actually the one that I was going to be using for my Part 6 costume until I found the hood. So I'm going to be using it for this costume. And in all honesty, they actually fit and feel a little bit better, and it only cost about $3. Now when I put the mask on, I do notice that the sides don't stick out nowhere near as much as the mask from the film. Now all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of foam that I have lying around and just stick it on the sides so it looks a little more film accurate. Alright, let's go ahead and add everything up and see how much it actually cost. And as you can plainly see, it was under $25. Okay, let's put everything together and see what we got. Alright, I hope you guys liked the costume. I had a wonderful time making it. So if you have any suggestions of costumes that you'd like me to make in the future, let me know down below. Alright everybody, this is CS5 signing out, and I hope to see you in the next video.